Yeah, I really think, we've got a really good mixture of what we need to have the strongest season that Front Row has ever had.
4 years ago that Austin Dillon ran over the top of Eric Almirola. Nothing. Hey, he just ran over him and knocked him out of the way, drove around, checker flag, I'm the greatest.
You never know when you're just going to have an off weekend.
I've kind of gotten the ability to have the platform that I want, and it is my platform, and I can speak to whatever I feel like talking about.
We were in the mix, and it makes it a lot more fun when you're in the mix than you are just struggling and trying to figure out what direction to go.
It's tough, and sorry for being bouncy the words here.
It's like if you have, the all-you-can-eat buffet every single day of the week, people are going to get tired of it, right? So if it's a special thing, I think people get more excited for it.
Hi, Bo.
Raise your hand up so she can see it. There you go.
Truthfully, even as a company, I think it was, very head-scratching why at the beginning all four of us just went instantly straight to the back. We just really struggled.
Welcome on to the Backstretch, and yes, you can probably tell I'm still a little weary from a week in Daytona, but what an amazing week it was. Some great racing. Had to wait till Monday to get the Cup Series race and the Xfinity Series races in, but I'm glad that they went ahead and called it early on Sunday, because I can tell you I was down there. We were not racing on Sunday. It basically poured at the track all day long. Worth the wait, especially if you're a Hendrick fan. We got William Byron in victory lane. Great young driver. He is a wheel man. Lets his car do the talking. It's kind of quiet. Doesn't do a lot of talking, outside of when he's being interviewed. But great for the sport. He was one of the stars of the Netflix series. So, people that were new to the sport recognized him and knew who he was. Been 10 years since Hendrick Motorsports has been in victory lane. So for them to be back on the anniversary of their first trip to Daytona, that was kind of cool. Jeff Gordon, Rick Hendrick, William Byron, his crew chief Rudy Fugle, all really excited in victory lane. And I mean, why not? You won the Daytona 500. Didn't go without a little controversy, and we're definitely going to talk about that with our crew chief, Chris Carrier, when he stops by. By the way, shout out to Chris, brand new driver in Stephen Parsons in that truck, and finished 6th at Daytona. That's a pretty strong debut for that team for sure. Our guest this week is Todd Gilliland. Now, Todd, I actually talked to him before Daytona, so I'm going to edit out some of the stuff that's not really prudent, so it'll be kind of a shortened interview. We're actually supposed to get William Byron this week on Monday. Well, we were racing on Monday, so then they rescheduled it to Wednesday, and then, he won, so now he's on his national tour. So didn't get William this week. We're hoping to get him a little later on in the year. We usually get him once or twice a year, so I'm sure at some point we'll get to catch up with him. Super excited for William Byron, but since I haven't had a chance to play the interview that I did with Mr. Gilliland, Todd Gilliland, I think that'll be great. I like talking to Todd. He's a really super smart racer. He grew up in a racing family. He's a scrapper. Last year wasn't exactly the year that he wanted, having to split between two cars, but he made the most of it. Now the car is all his own this year, and I think he's going to do some big things, because he's had some moments he's shown that he's ready to make a splash in the series this year. So let's get rolling with Chris first. We are joined now by our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who's crew chief at Henderson Motorsports. We are in their lovely facility with the 75 food country truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. It's changed so much. Sometimes I have a hard time keeping it straight. First of all, before we talk about the Cup Series stuff, very nice debut for your team with your new driver, Stephen Parsons. Rebound back from a crash to finish 6th. How'd you feel about the weekend at Daytona?
I thought overall for us it was, very solid. I thought Stephen was very solid. We came away with a lot of damage, but I can honestly say that I don't think any of that, not one little bit of the damage or hiccups or uh-ohs was anything that he did out of line for what he was supposed to be doing. We got caught up in some stuff, which if you enter Daytona, you better just go ahead and sign that waiver, because it's going to happen. And it happened with us. we were fortunate enough to make it through and keep rolling and keep going. Had some good work by our pit crew in the pits. I was very proud of that, of getting sheet metal cut away and do it under the time clock limit, and that's not easy. And make sure that we went out there and the thing was safe, that it was going to make it, the tires weren't going to blow out or something break off or whatever. And Stephen kind of kept his cool and just kind of soldiered up and said, okay, this is all right. And he kept on going and made it through some more melee and come home with 6th place, which is nothing to sneeze at. And we're very, very proud of our effort and of Stephen, and, proud to have, carried Ballpark Buns and Rolls as our major sponsor for that race. And, pretty happy, pretty good start. Could have been a little bit better, could have been a whole lot worse. So it's all right. It's like, okay, we'll lick our wounds from that, take what we got, go on to the next one, which for us is Bristol, March the 16th, and get ready for that and see if we can get some more momentum going there.
All right, so then we had to wait 2 days to get the other races in. But I will say this for NASCAR, they made the decision very early on Sunday, and I think that coupled with the Monday being a holiday, I think it actually helped the crowds because people were able to move hotels, move flights, all those things very early in the day and make those changes. We were definitely not, I was there, we were definitely not racing on Sunday. It was pouring down rain the entire time. So I think that's just another thing, like, with moving the ARCA race up a day, with moving the Clash up a day, that NASCAR seems to be really trying to be more, we got a visitor, to be more fan friendly with their decisions on when weather affects races. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%. I think the decision they made out at the Clash in Los Angeles to move the race up, which is unprecedented, or move it back, I guess, actually, earlier than scheduled was kind of unprecedented. But nowadays, let's face it, Heather, the weather reports are pretty accurate. You can see what's coming. They're pretty much on point, and they can look at that and say, look, okay, there's no use thinking that we're going to change. We can't stop the rain, or we can't, we're not going to change that. That's not in our hands. And they use what information they have to make the best decisions they can make concerning everybody. That's concerning the spectators, the teams, the people that have to be at the track for, the parking attendants, the traffic control, the medical people. You a lot of moving parts, a lot of people that are involved in putting these events on. It's not just the drivers and the race teams and the NASCAR officials. It's a ton of more people, and I compliment them for that. I know it's the worst thing is sitting in a racetrack. If you're on a race team, the worst thing is sitting in a racetrack while it's raining and you can't do nothing, and you're trying to keep yourself mentally motivated. So, like, okay, what if it clears up and we're racing here in 2 hours? It's kind of miserable, and I think I'm glad that they called the race early Sunday and said, okay, this ain't going to happen. We're going to run it tomorrow. We're going to get the races in. They did. Everybody's home. They got the events done, and it's the best they could do in the situation they had, circumstances they had. I think they did very well. So I compliment them for that. I thought they did the best they could with what the circumstances were.
So as good as that was, there were a couple of things that had people kind of grumbling the day after. First of all, fuel mileage being a part of this. Guys were running. Yes. I just listened to the Door Bumper Clear podcast. Bubba Wallace was on there, and he was talking about how at times they were running 40% throttle, and that how slow they were actually running around Daytona. You're a crew chief. You obviously, these are the strategies that everybody's playing by. Is this something that could be fixed, or is this what super speedway racing is going to be? Because they kind of called it, basically they ran, four duels. They ran 4 heat races, right? Because the duels and then the stages were just basically run around, save fuel, last 20 laps of each thing, jockey for a position to try to win the stage or win the Daytona 500.
I think that, if you look back and you say, okay, I'm just throwing things out for argument's sake. Not that I know the answers. I don't. If you say, okay, let's take away the stages. Take away the fact that we're going to have a caution and have stages, and people are trying to go to this point so they can get stage points. Then it becomes just another 500-mile race, like it used to be, and people would be, probably not doing what they did to make it to where they don't have to pit before a stage. They would just go ahead and run probably as hard as they could, or run to what they thought the next fuel window would be, and maybe have to save fuel to get to that. And I don't know that it's ever going to be perfect. I'm probably one of the only people in the world that I know of that can say this. I kind of like the clock back when we had the clock. For a crew chief, from my end of it, it made me think about it more. I mean, because it wasn't a set of circumstances. I mean, you didn't go into the race knowing that, like, okay, I'm going to pit on lap 40, I'm going to pit on lap 80. There's going to be caution there, and there's going to be end of a stage. I think that to me it kept me hopping, and it kept me thinking about the whole race, about okay, what if this happens, and you don't know where that caution's going to come before that clock ran out or not. But it seems that the Daytona 500s and even the 500-mile races on the speedways, there's always a time where there is, like, to me, there's a lull in the race, because everybody's not thinking about, they're not thinking about just going as hard as they can and leading what they can and maybe trying to break away from the pack, maybe 10 cars break away or whatever. They're just thinking about, okay, when's the next stage, and how do I position myself?
Well, you talked about no stages being a possible solution. What about more stages? In other words, if you take gas fuel mileage out of it,
yes,
so
ma'am,
that everybody can make it to stage on one tank of gas, then people can just race, right?
Just race like crazy, and they don't have to worry about it. And more than likely, all those times are going to fall in, that situation is also going to fall into where, okay, you're not really going to have to worry about tires really wearing out. Your tires are not going to be, so you can say, okay, we're going to have a stage at, say, 45 laps or whatever it is at Daytona. We can make it on tires and fuel, and I'm going to try to get all the points I can, and I'm going to lead. So to me, there's no reason not to, and everybody runs as hard as they can run. Well, so then you're like, well, this opens up another set of circumstances that, like, hey, if everybody's going, as hard as they can go the whole race, trying to get everything they can get, then this is going to be probably the most competitive we're going to see for a 500-mile race, and we don't have to wait till the last 10 laps to see the exciting part. We can see a lot of excitement throughout the race. I would think it would be better TV viewing, and I'm pretty sure it would be better if I paid for a ticket to sit in the stands and bought like our spectators do. I'd maybe get more value out of that. So that's a good idea. I don't know what they're looking at or what they're thinking of or whatever, but to me, that'd be a good. It'd be worth trying it.
Right.
It'd be worth trying it.
So the other thing that people were upset about, not everyone, because I can think of, probably 30 people that were pretty happy with it, but was the end of the race, and not finishing under green, and how close it was to the white yellow, because it is by the rule book. They did finish the race the way, but it is very also anticlimactic after waiting 48 hours for that race for it to end under caution, and some would even say end on a wreck that the Hendrick cars may have started.
They did.
So, it sat wrong with a lot of people. So, I don't know if there's anything that can be done about this one, because, it is by the rule book, right?
It was by the rule book, and I don't think anybody had malicious intent. But I'm with the other, 98% or whatever. I sat there as a fan watching the Daytona 500, which is the iconic race, and I'm thinking, okay, it's on Monday. I'm home. I'm tired from the weekend. We're home, but I want to sit back and enjoy a race that I have a lot of friends and people that I care about competing in. And I want to just enjoy this and sit back. I want to see a good race. I want to see a good finish. And I hope it's good for the spectators that sat there that have endured this marathon through the weather and the whole 9 yards, spent a lot of money to be there. And Heather, it was almost like, oh boy, man, this is really going to be good. You got Fords and Chevrolets and Toyotas. You got these people's favorite driver and these people's favorite driver and these other people's favorite driver, and they're all there to kind of scratching and clawing. And you're thinking, okay, and you got 3 different sets of strategies, that kind of came to play on the pit stops and win, and this pack of cars and that pack of cars and this other pack of cars, and it all comes down. It's going to be, man, this is going to be good. And then, pow, wreck happens, takes out half of the ones that had a really good chance of winning, and they rode around under caution to the checkered flag, and it's like, okay. That was like watching the Super Bowl and, somebody lost the game on a blocked extra point or something. I don't know, something.
Or a fumble.
Or a fumble.
Yeah.
Or, something that you looked at and said, man, that was a really bad call. And it's just a letdown. I was let down. I was like, well, shoot. I didn't want to watch it end under caution, and a bunch of cars sitting in the infield tore all to pieces, and some drivers thinking, well, the team that won's the one took me out. And it's what it is. Like you said, it's all by the rule book. It's all legal. It's all the way that NASCAR played it out the way that it's that the rule book says it has to be. So, but it's still kind of. So I don't know. I don't know if you.
It'll never happen. But personally, I would like to see a clause that says, if the leader causes the wreck on the white flag, that we rack it up and try it again. I just don't think you should benefit from cause. And I love William Byron. He's a good kid, but I don't like the idea of benefiting from wrecking someone. I just think if the leader causes or is involved in the wreck, maybe you give it one green, white, checkered chance.
That's really not a bad. That's not a bad idea, because it would prevent, I think, some things happening.
Some tomfoolery at the end.
Well, I mean, what was it, 4 years ago that Austin Dillon ran over the top of Eric Almirola? Nothing. Hey, he just ran over him and knocked him out of the way, drove around, checkered flag. I'm the greatest. I won the Daytona 500. And I'm sitting there watching it thinking, well, that was kind of...
Well, even outside of the Daytona 500, when you go back to, was it Brad Keselowski and Carl Edwards at Talladega when Carl ended up in the fence? It's basically the same thing. He just drove right through Carl.
Drove right through him, knocked him in the wall, and went on and won the race. To me, personally, I just don't think that... I mean, I wouldn't get what I would call the value of winning, like the good feeling, the accomplishment feeling, the gratification of like, okay, if I win, I want to beat somebody else at their best.
Right.
I want to go out and beat them when I know they had every fair chance that I did, so I can actually say, okay, I really was the best. I really was the best. I was better than those guys on this day. On this day, I was better. I did my job. I covered all the bases. I did the details, and I performed well and within the rules and within ethics rules. I don't want to just go out and just run over top of somebody and wreck them and go by and say, "Yay, I'm a winner. I beat you." Okay, not really. I've always thought on the speedways now, how many cars and trucks are we wrecking every race?
Right.
I mean, scads. I mean,
millions of dollars,
millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of tore up stuff. And we've come up with some rules. We've come up with some guidelines. We've come up with the things with the trucks and the cars to try to keep this from happening, and it's still it's drivers driving cars into the back ends or right into the sides of other cars, when they have the steering wheel, the brake, and the throttle at their disposal. Nobody else. So to me, I've always thought, and I've actually thrown the idea out to some other people, some officials and so on, like, if you drive your car in the back of somebody else, especially going down the straightaway, and it causes a wreck, you need to sit out. Now, and we have the technology now
where you can see. You can see intent.
Said, now wait a minute. He got out of the throttle. Something happened. Somebody spooked him up in front of him.
You can see intent. You saw that thrown around all last year when people were pointing fingers of people right hooking guys. So
you can see it, and I think it's like, well, we want the drivers to take care of themselves. They want them to police, and I'll be honest with you, nowadays that ain't happening.
No. So
these drivers don't care enough.
Yeah,
don't care enough.
They're and Denny Hamlin came out and said it, and I kudos for it. But I'm going to be selfish, right? I'm going to be selfish for my brand. Which, I mean, can I fault him? No, I can't. But there does need to be some policing. I agree.
It does.
Let's end on something for Daytona on a positive note.
Okay.
And that was the crowd. I mean, they stuck around till Monday.
Yes, they did.
There were very few empty seats on Monday, and I think this is great. Is the sport finally finding the momentum it lost during COVID?
I think it's slowly getting back. That dip that went, let's take it. Let's face it. Our whole nation, our whole society, everything we had, every sport we had, every sport entertainment went through a bad time with the pandemic and COVID and its long-lasting effects and the economic effects and all the stuff that's going on nowadays. It's hard. This is a hard time to try to recover, no matter what you're doing. So I think that it has turned the corner. It's turned the heel. It's starting back up this way, and I think that's a good point that you brought up. When I had the TV on Monday night and they were showing spans of the crowd, I'm like, wow. There's a ton of people there. There's not many empty seats.
It was impressive in person too.
My wife made a comment about it too. She said, "Wow, that's pretty good." And to go through all that, the weather stuff and be down there, it's, to me, that's I commend those people. I'm thankful for those people that stuck it out, and thankfully they were able to do so. Apparently they were economically able to do so, and I guess their job situations worked out at home to where, okay, I'm not putting myself in any peril that way. I'm not missing out anything. I can go back Tuesday morning and hit it. Good for them and good for us and good for our sport, because that was good. I wish they would have got to see a real green flag finish, but they saw a pretty good race. They went through the time. They closed the door on that. They finished the chapter, and to me, it's a real good sign for our sport, our business. That it's like, and I think you're seeing some new fans in the stands, some new faces, and some new groups of people. Different groups from different walks of life, different ages, different interests, and so on and so forth, that are attracted now. And the personalities that we have, the Michael Jordans, I'll use him, but we've got a lot more than him. But Pitbull, and the personalities that are showing up to these races and now ownerships and so on and so forth, I think it's just drawing in a lot of people, a lot of interest from different people from around the country, from around the world, and even from right here in the Southeast. I'm anxious and I'm hopeful for our Bristol race weekend to see how the crowd support is. I'm praying for great weather for that. March, second week of March, we'll see, but we'll hopefully have good weather, and we'll see what kind of crowd we have. I hope we have super crowds, because I think they're going to see good races.
I think as we close the page, I think a good measuring stick is going to be, what does it look like at Atlanta, because that's a track that has struggled in recent years in crowds.
It has.
So what is the key to a good show at Atlanta for whoever shows up?
I wish I could really answer that question. I think Atlanta is now a 1.5 mile racetrack that's a super speedway. They drive it like a super speedway. They treat it like a super speedway. The rules are kind of flavored a little bit towards speedway racing. It is speedway racing because it's wide open. They go around, side by side, rows and rows of side by side racing. Every now and then get 3 wide, and they're all over one another, and it looks just like Daytona at a smaller place, and they're running pretty doggone fast. So to me, the Atlanta races are kind of exciting to watch because I understand, like, this is tense. There's not much room for error here at all, and they're going at it for a long time. So again, I don't know what the weather will play.
It's supposed to be good weather.
Good weather, probably cool, but if it's sunshiny, man, there's just not any better way to have a good, a good weekend with good weather, sunshiny day, and so on and so forth. I don't. Is the Cup race a day race? Is it an afternoon race?
Yeah.
Well, afternoon
3
race.
o'clock.
A lot of times I've seen a lot of beautiful days in the spring in Atlanta when it's sunshiny and clear skies and no rain and so forth. And hopefully, it'll be warm enough that you can get through the, that wind's cold. You can get through that and just see a good race, and at a beautiful place. So I don't know. That is a good point. I think a good marking point will be, okay, what does it look like at Atlanta? What's the crowd like? What's the fan support like? Hopefully it'll be very good, because I think the people that'll be there will see good races. They'll see exciting races. It'll be tense. 3 races that'll be pretty tense. So we'll see. Keep our fingers crossed.
I talked to your teammate at the Ford Performance thing a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to him about how this is the first time in a long time he hasn't had a ton of change. And for you too, I mean, you're actually going to get to run the full season in one car and not bounce around. So just between you and your teammate and kind of the consistency you're going to have, do you think that puts you guys in a good position?
Yeah, I really think, we've got a really good mixture of what we need to have the strongest season that Front Row has ever had. I really, with Michael, like you said, it always seems to work out with him, that they've always ran well and found the right person at the right time to crew chief him or fill in at the last second. But, watching him and Travis, obviously they're right where they need to be. And then, for me and Ryan, just the second year under our belts, like I said, we've made a lot of personnel changes as far as like road crew goes, but I think really it's all for the better. And yeah, I think even the crew chiefs working together, that's exactly what we need to be able to start the season on the same page. And really, these guys don't slip up much, so we really have to hit the ground running from lap 1 of the first race all the way through Phoenix at the end of the year.
It seems like for you specifically that you have some tracks that you're really good at, and then some tracks maybe not so much. I mean, is the key for you guys to find the consistency across all tracks? Because I feel like when you guys go to a road course, that your team has as good a chance of anyone to be running up front. And the super speedways you seem to be pretty good at, but maybe some of the other ones not so much. So is that the key for you guys, is to just be more consistent everywhere?
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, it takes time and right, a certain level of results to have confidence. And I really do have a lot of confidence, like you said, at short tracks, road courses, super speedways. But kind of out of that group is 1.5 miles. So that's definitely my goal this year, is figure out what I'm doing wrong or what I need to do better. Because there's so much data, so many different videos, stuff you can watch to get better, but it's about pinpointing what actually needs to be fixed. So yeah, for me, it's the communication at those racetracks, the comfort, getting up to speed quick. It's multiple layers, but it all comes down to confidence. And I think hopefully once we can get the ball rolling, I think confidence will come hopefully a little bit more naturally once we have some better results.
How much will you lean on your teammate for that? Because I feel like his career trajectory is pretty much the same. I mean, he was always known as a road course, short track, super speedway kind of guy. And then the last couple of years, he's found, more on all sorts of tracks. So is that a resource that you'll tap into for that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we lean on Michael for literally every type of racetrack every week. He's got just so much to offer every single week, like I said. So, but yeah, as far as the 1.5 miles go, we've definitely been trying to lean on him, and we'll continue that. I think as I can hopefully bring a little bit more to the team as far as knowing what I'm doing, the feel I need, all that stuff. It'll become easier to have those discussions. But yeah, Michael's been nothing but a great teammate to me, and really been open for all those type of questions. So yeah, it's about not only asking the questions, but being able to put them into use when the time comes.
So for my final thought today, I want to talk about the Truck Series race for a number of reasons. I don't really talk about the Truck Series much on this podcast, but first of all, it's kind of an embarrassment. Those kids, and it's not just the kids, it's some of the older drivers too, but the drivers in that series have got to learn how to control their impulses, for lack of a better word. They are not taking care of their equipment. They are not cognizant or care about the fact that they are wrecking equipment, and it's just making for a really messy, dirty race. I mean, it's not that much fun to watch guys just run all over each other all the time, and it's really not fun for the guys that are, minding their P's and Q's and becoming collateral damage because of it. One particular incident in the Truck Series race got a lot of attention, and that was Bubba and Rajah Caruth. And, a lot of people were criticizing Bubba, saying, well, you made mistakes and blah, 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 blah. That's true. But everybody needs a good mentor. And maybe Bubba didn't have the kind of mentor that he's trying to be to Rajah. I think a lot of times people have a hard time seeing especially young people have a hard time seeing that when a mentor comes to you with something, they're trying to help you, trying to keep you from making the same mistakes they did so that you can maybe go even further than they did, right? I mean, Bubba, it took him a long time to get the respect of some people. It took him a long time to get to where he is now in a good ride. And maybe if he had had someone mentoring him like Rajah, he is mentoring Rajah, he wouldn't make those mistakes. So I really like the fact that Bubba did what he did, jumped out of his motorhome, went, coached him on the spot, because I think you have to do it on the spot too. You can't wait 2 or 3 days. You have to do it while it's fresh. And I think in the long run that's really going to pay off for Rajah. I want to see him be successful. I love Rajah Caruth. I interviewed him at Daytona in 2019, I think it was, when he was running late model. He was first kind of coming on the scene at Rev Racing, and I would love nothing more than to see that kid succeed. And I think Bubba feels the same way. So I say more people in the Truck Series need Bubba Wallace's in their life, because I think it would be much better for the overall health of that series. Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch, and we'll see you next week.